Well, that's what they're all going to hear to start with. Thanks for the
I love it. I love
I
that.
set you up for that one.
That was so
my,
good.
That was my comedy move right there.
That's the one he's got.
In 3, 2. Are we allowed to cuss? And we're live.
No, we just got lost. We're down now. We've been taken off the air. We've upset the internet. Hey, there it comes. I'm trying to share it. Now, for the people watching at home that were hoping for Chase, he is calling in sick. Apparently, I didn't know we had sick days, Dakota, but he's called in sick.
I have been nearly dying laying in bed, and I've still done this show. Come on, Chase.
You and I have never missed a week.
No, we've never missed a single.
Because we know
week.
people count on us.
That's right. Oh, dang it. Something is going really wanky with the video. Oh, there it goes. And something was messing up.
We can't have it crash. My bride's messaging me if I want anything at Walmart. No, I think we're good. On the air now. Does anybody need at Walmart? Bowers, you good?
No, I'm good.
All
I'm
right.
good.
You could swing by on the way through. We live down that way.
Oh, there you go.
All right. Donnie Morrill's watching. Cousin Donnie's in the live stream.
He says, "What's up?"
Got a crowd already. We all wore dark shirts. It's like goth night in here.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Feel good? I got to do a different read. You've changed this on me, so I can't read
Oh, yeah,
this.
that's right. We
right.
got it right here.
All right.
You're good.
Here we go. I'm nervous. It's like a brand new show.
I know. I'm nervous, too.
Following your rules. I hope everything's right. Welcome to the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast on the We Are Libertarians Network. This is episode number 75 of East Central Indiana's favorite podcast. I'm Jeremiah Morrill, and I'm joined by our co-host, Dakota Davis.
In today's episode, we are featuring Mr. Jordan, MJ Bruno over here, returning guest from episode 15, and also the great and legendary comedian, Mr. Chris Bowers.
Hello. Thanks for having me on, guys. I'm excited.
I thought he was a motivational speaker. That I was told that.
I'm either or.
I've seen him as a comedian, so that's what I'm going with.
I'm a dual threat.
It's all a matter of what you met him as first, I suppose.
Yep. Today, we will be talking about the hard work that stand-up comedians have to put into their jobs and everything that they do, the Purdue student controversy again, and then we will be recapping MJ's time living in a van down by the river.
Yeehaw.
and by the canyon and all other places, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah, mostly just the river.
So all motivational speaking.
Yes. This show is about our lives in rural Indiana. As always, we promise our episodes are going to be a fun and an easy listen. I don't even need this piece of paper anymore. We got a new read, and I can just watch this. Ready? We've used that one for 25 episodes. It's gone. I hope your computer doesn't crash before we record next week's episode. In 10 minutes.
Hopefully, I need to get that printed out now.
Yeah. So Patreon people, we had an increase. Did we have an increase this week?
Not yet.
No.
No.
It's just wishful thinking.
We had an increase last week, but we forgot to mention it. That was Mr. Zach Bertram.
Oh, I was just informed about Zach's increase. Maybe
you were?
Maybe you had known,
that
but
was
you didn't
last
tell
week,
me.
and I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Zach.
Of course.
We've got bills to pay on the new studio, so Dakota signed us up. We're going to have gigabit internet. I don't know why we're going to have gigabit internet, but it's available, so we're going to have faster internet than we've ever seen in the history of the world.
That's right. Yeah, top of the line internet speeds with fiber optic cable transmitting it to us. Newcastle is the place to be if you want world-class internet. It's a great time to be alive.
So if people are in the Patreon program, they get to be in that super Facebook chat. I put in pictures of the new studio in there, and then their special dedicated feed. They have a special episode, a new episode of Tinfoil Time. You guys discussed something that happened well before your time.
That's right. Yeah. The Tinfoil Time episode dropped last night. It was about a New Coke and the conspiracy surrounding it. New Coke was a product that replaced classic Coca-Cola in 1985. And there are message boards on the internet dedicated to how this was a cover-up so that the Coca-Cola company could change the recipe of Coca-Cola forever. And it's a big deal.
I thought the cover up was that they made you miss the other Coke so that it built your brand.
That was
love.
the move, yeah.
Yeah.
That's how they beat the Pepsi challenge.
Yeah, there's a few of them. It's a wonky conspiracy. It was a fun one though. I really enjoyed it.
MJ, Do you want professionally? Do you go as Bruno, MJ, or Jordan?
Whatever you want, man. Whatever you're feeling. We'll just go MJ.
All right.
I think that's what we've been working with.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, when she was returning the keg from the wedding, she said, "This is for MJ." And like, who the hell's MJ? And
Never
then
heard of him.
they were like, "This is for Jordan." Nobody had any idea.
Yep.
So at work, you're a different name.
Yep. Most people call me Bruno there.
Yeah.
I don't know why. No one knew me as Bruno when I moved to Indianapolis, so I don't know how it happened there.
It's kind of like, I
You got
like Bruno.
You got
Bruno
like
suits-
9
suits you too.
aliases.
Yeah. All right, go Bruno then.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't know
It
what I
is
can do. He's gonna call you Bruno. I'll call you MJ, and we'll cut your pay in half.
That means Chris
Wild
has to
card,
call him
yeah.
Jordan. Yeah.
Well, we're calling him Bowers, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm Bowers, but I'll call him MJ Jordan.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
Or
right.
23. Can I call you 23?
Absolutely.
There we go.
Jump man.
You're from Chicagoland, aren't you?
Griffith, Indiana. Yeah, Northwest
North.
Indiana.
Yeah, Chicago. Yeah. The region.
Region rat.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
right, correct time zone up there. It's nice.
Yeah, we're visiting the that time zone this weekend. Sarah and I are heading down to Tennessee for another family wedding, so it's got that
Feel
going
good.
for us, I guess. Yeah. So New Coke. Are you even aware of the New Coke controversy?
I've heard of it. Not familiar
Yeah.
at all, though.
The only thing I got out of it was I learned that I really, really wanted to try this new Coke recipe.
Oh, it's crazy. It tasted like Pepsi.
Did it taste just like Pepsi?
They were losing to Pepsi.
So then
the
they just
Pepsi
stole their
challenge,
stuff.
and so they just made a Coke that tasted like Pepsi. And whether they did it as a genius move or it was the dumbest move in history, who knows? But yeah, then people that liked Coke hated it so much that it was, I think, 57 days or 72 days, something like that, and they brought back.
Yeah,
I just watched a show on this. There's a cool show in the 80s about the 80s on National Geographic right now. That's got some. It makes some cool connections you don't really like. Like why CNN survived.
How did CNN survive?
John Lennon getting assassinated.
Really?
Yeah, because the first 7 months no one watched and it was a joke and they were running out of money. And then John Lennon got assassinated and then people
24
realized
hours a day watching
having
it.
24-hour news coverage was important. So without John Lennon getting killed, we would not have Donald Trump.
Well, a sacrifice.
I made the last leap.
A
But
sacrifice had to be made.
Fake news.
I see. Yeah, for me, CNN. I was born in '83. I was born the year that Derek Daly accidentally became a racist.
Yes, exactly.
And I don't remember CNN existing because I was 8 at the time, probably, or 7. It was first Persian Gulf War, and watching the green screen bombs being dropped
Wolf
and
Blitzer and all that,
Yeah,
yeah.
us winning a war or winning
a day
bullets going
long,
up.
yeah.
The day long Storm and Norman thing. Dakota has no idea. That was 4 years before Dakota's birth. So
I was a senior in high school, I remember.
yeah. So we're as we get into introducing Mr. Bowers here, Dakota in the show notes has where you might know him from, and I met Bowers. I didn't meet him. I was a kid in an audience, and I spent the last week and a half trying to rack my brain, trying to figure out where I had seen him, and we figured out. We think it was 1998, downtown Indianapolis at a 4-H leadership camp. I would have been probably a sophomore in high school.
Sure.
And you were doing a motivational speech at the time. You were a pro motivational speaker.
Yeah, I've been doing that since 1996. So yeah, I went to Ball State and I graduated from Ball State and met a guy who was doing did leadership conferences with high schools, and he hired me and I worked with him for about 4 years, and then in 2000 I went out on my own and started my own speaking company. But yeah, that's how I make the majority of my money still is motivationally speaking to high school kids and middle school kids all over the country.
So you're all over the country with it.
Yeah, I've spoken in like 46 states.
Wow.
2 million students.
That is incredible. And yet you have the recall to remember, oh yeah, I did the Embassy Suites in 1998 in Indianapolis.
I have a sense I have a really good memory, which has helped me throughout my life. Like I'm a solid, I think sometimes people think memory and intelligence are the same, and they're not. Like I'm also very smart. Don't let me get me wrong. But I'm saying I've also known people that have really good memories that like can't apply it and can't figure out whatever. But I mean, I just have both.
They know where they parked the car, but
but
past that.
But they can't, make it. But I'm saying like I was humble brag there. I'm even smart, but no, but I've just always had a very good. Like one of my strange superpowers is I know what story I've told to everyone in my life. Like I would never repeat a story to you that I told you on a road trip 15 years ago. Like I know I told you that story.
You're never going to be the grandpa that's like, and then let me tell you another time about.
Now sometimes I'll tell that story in front of you and to someone else who's not heard it, right? So my girlfriend will test that she'll hear, but I've never said to my girlfriend a story that she's ever heard before. Like I've never said it twice.
Wow, that's
also
impressive.
Remember what story I told on what podcast I was. We did a podcast for 4 years, and I know I never repeated stories on there unless it was to a new guest that wanted to hear it. So like I just have a sense of what stories I've told who. somehow in my brain.
That is
Oh
surreal.
man, I'm not like I tell my wife the same stories over and over and she's like, "You told me this like 6 times." Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I just somehow know.
Jordan MJ was or Bruno was on episode 15. We were downstairs and I tried to reintroduce Dakota to MJ, even though we've never not done an episode together.
Yep.
So yeah,
Good memory.
I'm a total fool. So you may remember Bowers from the Bob and Tom show. You've heard him on there doing weeks at a time on there. You were the host of Trial by Laughter on Comcast.
Yeah, I want to hear about this.
It's just a contest we did at Morty's. We're going to do it one last. That'll be the last Morty show actually. That will be in October at Trial by Laughter. But it's just it's I think 36 to 44 comics from around the country come and compete. It's filmed for Comcast, which is their on-demand thing in Indiana. But I mean, they get a good tape out of it. It's a 5-camera shoot. And if you win, you get $1,000 and a 45-minute comedy special, 5-camera shoot, which is good for up-and-coming comics. So it's basically people that are about to headline or at the top level of features. I mean, there's some people that come that are terrible, but I mean, for the most part, the people that advance to the second round are all working people that tour around and travel. I mean, there's a lot of people from New York and LA, but it's a fun contest. And I just was I basically go, hey, here's your next comedian, and then are you guys ready for it? I mean, I just do the TV stuff. We do the fake breaks and get everybody pumped up.
Get them ready to go.
Get them fired up.
So you were one of the owners of Morty's Comedy Joint in Indianapolis.
Yep. 8 years.
8 years. So you guys were up on the north side, a couple different locations.
Yep.
Most recently, you were at the Don Pablo's. Or no, Don Pablo. Was it Don Pablo's?
Yeah, it was Don Pablo's. Yeah.
And it was the host site of the Monday Night We Are Libertarians podcast down there.
Did that a few times.
That was where I met my bride the very first time. She visited Morty's,
Nice.
and that was the first place we were together. We didn't really talk then. We had another date later on, but yeah, it's a special place for us. And then we did the wall live down there, and Dakota and I got a bunch of pictures taken. So
Yep.
About 60 pounds ago, there's pictures of me in front of the red wall.
Nice.
So there's a very special place for us. It's a
Well, the wrecking ball hit it today for the first time.
Oh,
the-
it's going down,
The
huh?
north wall is gone, and they're,
Oh,
they're
no.
tearing it down. So
Sarah was at the District Tap up there on 82nd Street last, and I said, "Is Morty still there?" She said, "Oh yeah, it's still there." Well, no, I guess not.
Yeah, it was because I mean they closed this May 1st, and I asked them to let us go through the end of May. It would have helped us move and whatever. And we had a couple big things lined up, and they're like, "Nope, it has to be May 1st," and then they didn't do anything till literally.
So they could have waited till the end of May.
I mean,
is
who
what
knows?
you're saying.
Who knows? But yeah, it was today was the first time, or yesterday was the first time they knocked anything down.
So you
Took
guys
them
have
3 months.
as Morty's has not had a physical location, you've still done some promotion and some shows and some events through the Morty's vehicle.
Yeah, we tried to
around
find
the
a
city.
different. First, we tried to find a different location, and that wasn't working out. So we're just going to then become an idea and just do shows other places. And we did a show at the Morale 2 weeks ago, maybe me and Todd and Sean McComb, or Todd McCombs and Sean Latham, and it was a fun show. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm moving to LA in November, and it's just like, I don't really want to mess with it anymore. I mean, it was a little sad losing Morty's, but to be honest, I'm the most tan I've been since 8th grade. Like, it's just been awesome. Like I live in this apartment complex with all these cool people, and they're all their mid-20s and 30s, and they like to party. And so, like, when Morty's closed, the first day of summer, there was all these people at the pool, and I said to Chrissy, my girlfriend, I said, I'm going to buy a floaty beer pong table and become the mayor of my pool.
They're
And
all gonna know
that's-
me.
And that's what's happened. I've literally just been at the pool every Saturday, Sunday for 3 months, and it's been awesome. I've got a bunch of cool friends that live there now, and it's
Well,
good
we've
time.
got a wall party out here, a wall pool party for Chris Spangle coming up on the 15th of September.
Nice,
So
nice. Does Chris Spangle swim? I can't imagine. Him swimming.
he's been in the pool a couple of times.
Okay. Does he wear his shirt?
No, but we have little
Really?
floaties for
That's
him.
impressive. Okay.
He's he takes ginger protection, but so so our boy Spangle, who's the overlord here at the We Are Libertarians Empire, he called you once on about 2 hours' notice for the Libertarian State Convention a few years ago.
Yep.
You're the second comedian that I think I've seen do that show. The first one is oh man, I go somewhere and I don't know where to finish with the story. Tim somebody from Chicago.
Tim Slagle.
Yes, Tim Slagle,
Okay.
Libertarian
He knows
stand-up
his
comic.
stuff.
Yeah,
He's the only right-wing comic in the country.
yeah.
So I mean, not a lot
that's
of
good.
right-wing
Yeah.
comedy out there. I don't know if they don't have a sense of humor or
Oh
what,
well,
but it's-
you've got the blue collar guys, right? I suppose.
yeah, they're but I mean, he's politically right-wing. I'm
Yes.
saying like the blue-collar guys.
They play
are-
to it.
They play to it, but they're not like, I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying like Tim Slagle's more like literally conservative comedy as opposed to, The blue collar guys are.
Owen Benjamin as well.
Yeah, Owen now. Yeah, but
He got kind of weird. He's
I will say
a little bit.
Owen's more. I think Owen just tells the truth, and he
Yeah.
pisses people off on both sides.
Yeah.
Owen hasn't let the 3% of the Twitter sphere on the far left shut him up. And,
he got deleted from Twitter.
He gets. I think he thinks it's funny to really piss those people off. So I think that's part of it. But yeah, Owen and I we had Owen once, and we had some really good conversation.
Boss Hog Liberty got mentioned on Don't Wake the Bear, his podcast.
Nice.
A couple weeks ago.
Nice.
Yeah, that was really neat.
Was that cousin Rick calling in?
Cousin
with
Rick.
That? Yeah, he appeared on the show, and I think he was talking about honeybees. I don't think it had anything to do with us or the things we're doing here. It was more just, hey, you might want to check these guys out because I was on the show.
Yep. Yeah, that's what it was. But he said our name, so
we'll take it.
We'll take it.
We'll take it. We're coming on fast. We got Matt Pierce, who's been on the show. He's one of the sheriff's deputies that was on a month or two ago on the Canine episode. He stopped by my house the other night and brought a Will Power IndyCar driver, the Indy 500 winner, his Mid-Ohio visor, and dropped it off at the house. And it says, to BHOL, signed Will Power, number 12.
Nice.
So we've got some merchandise for the new studio,
Yeah, that's
Dakota.
right.
Sounds cool.
Big time.
So we're talking about us coming far along. You have also come far along. But I saw on your website, I looked up Chris Bauer's comedy, said he used to be a motivational speaker.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I just did. I mean, people ask, why are you a motivational speaker? Well, I sucked at sports. So, like, while you guys were playing basketball or football, I was at student council conference with your girlfriend. And
Hey, that was me too, man.
Yeah,
I was in band.
Yeah, there you go. So I was just one of those student council kids, and it just one thing led to another. And then I started speaking, and I always wanted to be a comic. I mean, since I was 12 years old, honestly. I mean, George Carlin. I mean, I just wanted to be a comic. I should know, hey, I did that. I mean, how do you do that? You know what I mean? So speaking seemed to be kind of like a middle ground to that. I can go into high schools, middle school. And if you saw, it was funny. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
Kids laughed, and
You've got to hold a 16-year-old's attention at any level. You have
Yeah.
to be charismatic.
Well, I've always said that, like, middle school kids and drunken adults are pretty similar, right? I mean, like, it's not it's, as far as crowd control goes, you know what I mean? Like, try to make 1,000 middle school kids listen to you, try to make 50 drunk people listen to you. It's the same kind of skill set, you know? And so I developed a bunch of stories and jokes I couldn't tell to kids. And so when I got divorced the second time, it'll be 10 years ago in November, I got divorced 10 years ago in July, but I mean, I started comedy 10 years ago in November, and I was like, yeah, I've always wanted to do this, and now I'm single, and because I traveled so much with speaking when I was married that it was like, if I went and did open mics, then it's going to even strain my marriage more or whatever. So it was like, once that wasn't an issue, I just started doing open mics, and I actually found Morty's. I didn't own Morty's then. I was an open micer, and it was a whole different scene than I'd seen in comedy, because I'd been to some open mics before in my life and just wasn't a big fan. And then once Morty's came along, I was like, oh, this is great. And so it just was one thing. I mean, I tell people all the time, if you want to do comedy, you got to be on stage 100 times before you'll even know if you're any good at it. And that was coming from, I'd already spoken to 1 million people and for years and whatever, but it's just such a different animal than that. And so the first time I went on stage as a comic, I was like, it's going to take 100 times before I'm going to feel as comfortable on a comedy stage as I do a motivational stage. And I think I did it in 4 months. Like I just did
100 reps in 4 months.
Yeah, I did 4 or 5 weeks, 4 or 5 shows a week. I'm sorry, and I would drive to Chicago and do open mics. I'd drive to Bloomington. I just went everywhere. I just did comedy everywhere, and I love it. It was just a lot of fun. It's just a cool. I mean, the cool thing about comedy is, like, you know, you guys do this podcast, and that's great, but like, the feedback's, I mean, and that's actually what Facebook stream, like, it's cool because it's right away, but like the comedy is such instant feedback. I write a joke in the morning, and then I go to an open mic and I do it, and I know right away, was that funny or was that not funny? You know, and that's kind of what's cool about comedy, as opposed to like writing movies or books or anything else, where you got to wait 6 months,
years,
or a year, or, you know, the movie takes 8 years for anybody. That joke was funny that I wrote 8 years ago when I wrote this screenplay, and then spent 6 years trying to get it produced, and then 2 years making it, and then a year edit. You know, it's just a whole different animal. So yeah, it was and I haven't really looked back. And then 2 years into that, Morty's closed, and I didn't want it to go away. And so me and my buddy Tony Deerdorf, who's still one of my best friends, he was a restaurant manager guy. He used to work at Jillian's downtown. He was at AGM for Jillian's downtown when it was there. And I said, he was out of a job at that moment. And I said, well, do you want to buy a comedy club? And he was like, sure. So we just did.
Better than doing nothing.
Yeah. I mean, so And Morty's, I mean, we got it. It cost less than my car. I mean, we got the whole thing for like $27,000.
Holy crap!
And I
Yeah.
was like, let's give this a shot. And then
There you go.
one thing
Huh.
led to another.
Yeah, that was one of the big things that I wanted to talk about was the amount of just the constant grind of comedians. Because Audrey and I, my wife and I, we went up to Chicago August 18th. We went and saw Dan Cummins.
Yep.
And we listened to his podcast. We're religious about it. And absolutely love him. So we got there really early for his last show on Saturday night, which was the last night. So it was his fourth show of the fourth night of him being there. So it was he had done a lot of shows, and so we lined up outside the door, and the bouncer comes out and says everybody needs to back up, and we're in the front of the line, and all of a sudden he comes walking out the front of Zany's Comedy Club in Chicago and sets up a table, with a suitcase, starts whipping out
He's
CDs.
doing his own merch sales.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's out there selling stuff, and I was like, holy crap, like the amount of work that this man puts in, traveling across the country, producing a podcast or 2 podcasts a week, and doing all this. Like,
That's
it's
all?
insane.
We're down with that struggle.
Yeah. Well, and what's cool about comedy as opposed to like music, let's say, is that like, you're going to meet Dan Cummins. Like you go to a Dan Cummins show, he's outside afterwards saying hi. And I mean, you go see a cover band and they hang in the back till everyone's gone. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to meet the bass player from a cover band.
And that's why one of the reasons why we loved Morty so much was that we would go, hang out with Bert Kreischer after, or we'd go see you do a show or Todd McComas do a show. And then you knew if you went to the second show, you'd go upstairs and we're going to have drinks.
Yeah, and that's part of it. And so I mean, comedy again. The part of comedy that's hard, the travel. I like the travel. The travel sometimes gets hard, and especially Dan Cummins specifically has kids, so I'm sure that's harder for him. But some people are better at writing. I mean, people always say is comedy hard. I'm like, well, nothing's hard if you're good at it.
Right.
I mean, things are hard if you suck at it. I mean, I've always said, people always say relationships are hard. No, not good ones. Good relationships are easy. Bad relationships are real hard, right? So if you're in a real hard relationship, probably not a good one. Like, cut
you have
bait,
to
let's
work
go.
a lot.
You know what I mean? Like if this was work if every day you like have to have a drink to come home to work on your relationship, it's not the right relationship. Just stop. Just stay at the bar and tell her you're done. I'm just saying, like, but same thing. Like if you're good,
I'll pick up my stuff on Wednesday.
yeah,
okay?
if you're good at comedy, it's not the comedy part's not hard. I mean, and most comics will tell you. I mean, Gary Goldman, who's one of my favorite comics of all time, will say the only time he feels okay about anything is when he's on stage. I mean, he the rest of his life he just dreads at times, and he has depression and stuff. And I love the guy, but I mean, he's had some struggles. But when he's on stage, he feels okay, and that's most comics. I mean, being on stage is unbelievable. I mean, it's when it's going well. I mean, there's times where you're like, oh, really? Have I only at 28 minutes? Jesus Christ, I hate these people. But for the most part, especially once you're at Dan's level, where you've got fans coming to see you that are time suckers and they love you and they're going to yell out, the catchphrases and what, like, that okay, that that's great. It's the getting booked part that's hard.
Right.
It's the countless emails. It's
cool. Yeah.
how many podcasts did you do while no one listened? You know what I mean? Like, how did you? I mean, Dan worked for 15, 17 years before he got to be.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, he had shows on Playboy TV. I mean, he did all the. I mean, he had 4 or 5 albums. I mean, he's been coming to Indianapolis for 15 years at least.
Yeah, and his podcast was kind of his last ditch effort. Like,
well, his podcast was because he wanted to live at home and not have to live in L.A. And so he moved to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and he did this podcast, and it took off. Now, but it only took off because he had this platform of 10,000 people or however many it was that have been following him. Now, that's still not a million. He didn't have millions of fans when he started his podcast. Right. He had maybe 10,000 or maybe 20 that had loved him throughout his career. Because he's a super funny stand-up, right? I mean, it's unbelievable,
he's fantastic.
And then he starts this new thing, and it's a new kind of podcast. There's nothing he did. Like, everyone has the podcast. I mean, there's a joke about like every comic in the country has a podcast. You know what I mean? And like, and cool. This is cool, but the fact that there's a podcast in a bedroom of Newcastle, Indiana, is insane, right? That's great, and I'm glad you guys have listeners. But I'm saying but then.
We don't just have listeners. We are amazed at the listeners'
well,
powers.
So, and that's and you guys have hit. I mean, because your niche of libertarians, whatever, that's also different people that aren't service as much. But like Dan's explaining weird stuff and explaining things that you thought you knew about, but maybe you don't. And he does it in a funny way, and he has that. I mean, I think what hooked me to Dan's podcast, and I listened to it too. Okay. is when he tricks me.
Yeah.
Like he makes up a bunch of crazy shit, and then he tricks you, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Marilyn Monroe's twin brother wasn't killed by a dog. I'm an idiot, right?
Yeah,
but
I
he
love
does it
that.
subtly enough because I love doing that too. One of my favorite things with comedy is I love telling you a story and then getting it more and more outrageous until you're finally like, oh wait, this is a lie, isn't it? That's my favorite kind of comedy is taking you down that road where you believe me for the first 4 or 5 huge lies. You're like,
Right.
really? Then that happened? No way. And then by the end, you're like, okay, fine, that can't be true. I love that part of comedy. So yeah, but I mean, so it's like for me, the hard work of comedy is just, do you send out emails? How do you get booked? How do you get people to come see you? Like the writing part's easy. Like if there's 12 people there or more, I'm going to make you laugh. Like that's my rule. But
and you've got, as you're coming along, you go from the open mic stage to then you're asked to open for a club, right? You're the first act. Normally, the way a comedy, if people that are listening aren't familiar with the structure, there's normally 3. There's like there's 3 comics there. One's usually a local guy.
Yeah, that depends on where you're at. Like in New York and LA, it's all called showcase style. So everybody gets 20 minutes, and that's it, right? You either make the show or you don't. And Joe Rogan will follow Bert Kreischer, who will follow Bill Burr, who will follow some guy you never heard of. I mean, it's just all whoever's schedule works out, so they can make 2 or 3 spots that night. In New York, they're making 8 spots. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And then like at the Comedy Store even is different than say the Laugh Factory. The Laugh Factory has a show with 5 comics, each do 20 minutes. The Comedy Store starts at 7. And they just run shows till the bar closes, and every 20 minutes there's a new comimic. That's why it's just an amazing thing, right?
Yeah, that would be incredible.
Now you're standard Midwest, but we don't have enough comics to do that. So there's I mean good ones anyway. There's plenty of comics but like
you can only hear Nate Gropp so many times.
Yeah, exactly, right? So we love Nate, but yeah, but so there's an opener that does 15 minutes, and then the middle does 30, and then there's a headliner do 45 minutes to an hour. And sometimes there's a guest spot, if there's a pretty girl in the audience and there's a professional comic, he's like, oh, I'm going to do a spot, right? But
Howard's like, I've got a joke I got to test tonight.
Did you see that girl? I'm up. Here we go. But anyway, and yeah, so the local guy is usually the first person, and they're not as, I ended up hosting most of the shows by the end of Morty just because I just liked doing it and I could always write new material. The problem is, with young people, young guys don't have a lot of material. So you'll hear the same 10 minutes. If you've seen them 3 times, you've seen all 10 minutes 3 times, you know what I mean? So it's where I've written, I've got hours and hours of content.
The MC at Zany's, whenever we went and saw Dan, and she was absolutely hilarious. I can't remember her name, but I had good belly laughs.
Zany's is a thing, too, that's different in that Zany's, the host gets paid more than the middle. The host does 35 or 40 minutes in Chicago, and then they bring up a middle who does 10 or 15, and then the headliner.
Yep.
So, like, the host is actually – and they have what's called a house MC. So she'll be the MC for a month.
Oh, okay.
And so it's every show for a month, and they rotate those people in because their theory is people come to comedy maybe once a month. They're not going to come twice a month, so you won't see the same person. But yeah, so then I actually like that idea, and that's kind of why I started being the house MC is like, let's start the show as strong as we can. This idea. Let's put the worst person up for 15 minutes. Now part of the problem with MC is, and this is what people don't understand either, is that half the room. Okay, you're setting up a joke. Half the room is ordering their drinks. Okay. So they don't hear the setup. The other half hears the setup, but then by the time you get to the punchline, they're ordering their drinks. So the first people that are done ordering their drinks don't know what the joke's about, so they don't laugh. And then the people that heard the setup don't hear the punchline, so they don't laugh. So it's a really hard spot. I mean, I do very well most times, and there's times where just even me as an MC, it's just a tough. It's just a tough. I mean, jokes that murder from the middle spot or the beginning of a headlining set, and now headliners have to deal with the checks at the end where people are doing math and they can't listen. But like there's jokes that murder in the middle or the beginning of a headliner set that don't work in an MC set because they're too complicated or too many people have to be paying attention for it to work.
Yeah, too many people aren't paying attention.
Yeah, it's not their fault. I mean, and that's what's funny is as a club owner, I don't want anybody to yell. No, I want them to order their drinks. Don't yell at them. I'd make some noise. I want the waitress to explain the specials. That's the way this works, So
that's a big part of the house. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's. I mean
that's why it's a two drink minimum.
And not that we ever made any money, but yeah, that's
keeps the doors open.
Yeah, I mean for a while anyway.
Yeah. So do most comedians start out as the MCs like around here?
Yeah. I mean, everywhere. I mean, in L.A., anywhere you go, you're going to start out as an MC. I mean, you gotta, because that's a skill you have to learn how to do because it's the most ubiquitous skill. I mean, it's a hard skill to learn. And there are people who can't MC; they just don't have the energy for it. and sometimes they just have to work harder, and eventually they'll become a feature from the jump. But yeah, you get MC for a while before you're gonna get, and that's the thing with comedy too, and especially now. Like right now, there's a boom in comedy, but it's not a boom of people watching comedy. It's a boom of people doing comedy, right? So there's
Okay.
like 8 billion comics I mean, if you look back to 82 or 83 or 87 or whatever, there are probably 250 comics in the whole country. You know, that's why when the boom happened, all these guys made all this money because they were in demand and there was no supply. Now,
So they all became
Right.
famous.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then the-
I mean, like you look at a guy like Mark Maron, and I think Mark Maron's podcast is great, and I think Mark Maron's even stand up now is good. But he'll tell you he walked the room every time, but he kept getting hired back. How is that possible? If somebody walks 2 people at Morty's, I have to think about whether I want to bring him back now because I have so many options. But there weren't any options back then. Like, I guess it's Maron week. Just make sure everybody gets paid up front because they're going to leave. You know, like how'd you have a career if every time you went on stage you walked after? I mean, Bill Hicks used to walk the whole room every time, you know, or every other time, but he still got booked. You know, it's like, okay, that's great. I mean,
And now he has this Alex Jones character he plays.
yeah, exactly, right? No. I wouldn't disbelieve that.
There's a new YouTube video that came out this week just trying to prove that Alex Jones is actually Bill Hicks.
That's amazing.
And if you listen to Alex Jones went on the Joe Rogan Experience,
Yeah.
and Joe Rogan was trying to talk to him about it, and it got him so fired up. And Rogan had him smoking weed and drinking whiskey, and it's probably the funniest podcast I've ever listened to.
I've often thought about doing a podcast that was just a weekly recap of the Joe Rogan podcast, like The Soup,
Yeah, just a summary show.
where I just had clips and I explained what was going on. So you'd have to listen to all 9 hours of it all week. You
Yeah.
could just listen to my 30-minute Joe Rogan podcast recap, and you were totally in the know.
And you're going to be at the top of the search. Be like, the Joe Rogan clip now.
Well,
The
there's-
Joe Rogan experience is what I was going to call it.
There's so many YouTube videos that are like Joe Rogan clips, Joe Rogan on this, and it's just different channels.
MJ, I think he
taking
just spit in my
pieces.
beer. I'm triggered.
I tried to, but I'm not sure if I got there all the way. Might hit the Rubik's Cube.
So I didn't realize Joe Rogan's show was as long as it is. For the longest time, I would see all those clips and like, all right, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And I went and found a real episode years ago. I'm like, 6 hours. Like it's a marathon.
It's 3 hours per
Yeah.
show generally.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, but
a long
they're
time.
pretty good episodes. Oh,
Yeah.
and the Alex Jones episode, of course, was number 911. Yeah,
Of course.
yeah,
The,
had to be that.
See, depending upon your age and what you grew up on and what you know, Joe Rogan to me was the guy from News Radio. And I'm sure for you as well.
Yeah.
I've tried to expose Dakota to News Radio and the magic of
I've
that
never seen-
cast, and he has no idea. It's
seen
not
that.
it's not streamable either. But
Oh, really?
he has no idea who Phil Hartman is. Some of these comics and these people that were just a big deal in the 90s.
Yep.
Nothing.
Well,
Nope.
you ever watch The Simpsons? Because that's where my Phil Hartman's my
Oh, yeah.
favorite. Is
Yeah.
The Simpsons.
Hi, I'm Troy
Yeah.
McClure.
Yeah.
You might remember me.
Yeah. Troy McClure was the lawyer.
Sergeant
What-
Bilko,
one
and
of-
then the SNL stuff.
One of my favorite moments. I had a New Year's party in 1999 at the Marat, and it was a great time. And we had I got a shuttle bus that went from Broad Ripple to the Marat and back, so nobody had to drive. It was $25 all you could drink for New Year's Eve. Like I just got this deal because my buddy was the bar manager or whatever.
That is a hell of a deal.
So,
I
like-
would do that now.
Yeah, so like 200 people, 250 people, 300 people went to this party, and we had a DJ, and it was awesome. What was crazy is Mellencamp played a show for like 200 people max upstairs in the Egyptian room. It was like $1,000 a ticket, but they didn't have security, so we just walked up and watched Mellencamp come in. It was amazing. But anyway, the next week I got a call, and this is pre-cell phone, pre all that. I just got a call from a girl, and she said, "Hey, I was at your party, and I met this really awesome dude, and he gave me his number, but I think I must have wrote it down wrong or whatever. But can you help me find him? I think you probably have his information since you planned the party." I said, "Yeah, what's his name?" She said, "Troy McClure." I said, "Oh no, oh, honey, that's a Simpsons character. He gave you the wrong name."
Oh no, oh, God,
Oh, I have some terrible news.
how embarrassing! Ah,
Yeah, so I had to tell this poor girl that Troy McClure was not going to in fact call her back. I did not.
Monorail.
I did not have his contact information. I'm sorry, darling.
oh no.
Call him beyond the grave. Oh
That's
man,
pretty
I
good.
think it was 20 years ago, like this week. I think I just saw a headline that he was his wife killed him while he was sleeping. So
Yeah, that was a bad
That's
relationship.
that's yeah. You were talking about him earlier.
I wonder if he had to work at that.
He probably did. He probably did.
Not working anymore.
She was a little bananas.
I know Joe Rogan from Fear Factor.
Yeah.
He was Fear Factor, and, they
And
did
then the UFC.
stuff. Yeah, and then I mean, and by the way, Joe Rogan's a brilliant dude. I mean, he's so smart on something. We had him at Morty's once, and he did a second show on a Friday. He did 3 hours, and it was all amazing. And like people would yell out things like string theory, and he would just talk. He would explain string theory to you, but then make you laugh while he was doing it. It was insane. I'm like, how was he making this into jokes? This is crazy. But he knew he had enough knowledge he could do it. It's easy.
Yeah, one of our co-hosts, Cade Koger, is going to see him live in Columbus. So I decided to go look at tickets because my brother-in-law, Josh, is also a big fan. And I was like, I could take Josh, Josh and I could go watch him. And already the show, it's not until 2019, I don't think. And no, it's next month, actually. Wrong show. Thinking of the wrong comedian. But anyway, and it was
Save
already...
the story. Just lie. Just save the story and lie to us.
It's already sold
It was
out.
already almost sold out. Yeah, you couldn't get seats next to each other yet.
Well, off air, I'll tell you what he makes per ad read for his podcast, and you guys will.
Oh, I
cry
already
to
know.
death.
Yeah, and it's soul crushing.
Cry to death.
Yep. But you also have
we're
to
not
think...
in it for the money, Bowers. We're here. We're just here to sell guns.
Yeah, clearly. You live in Newcastle. You're not in anything for the money.
But if the people of Newcastle would vote for me in November, it would be an amazing place once it's all over.
Great. There you go.
Yeah.
So did you work as the comedy booker? These comics as they're coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I booked. Yeah, well, the last year I booked it. And I always, I mean, we had bookers that worked at the logistics, but like we had to say yes or no. Like they couldn't just book whoever they wanted. So,
Right.
Yeah. So I was the booker for the most part. Yeah.
The kind of acts you're bringing in, are they mostly managing themselves and you're cutting your own deal and working it out? Or they have people that work
it
for them?
depends. Like at the end, it was mostly agents. I mean, it was half and half. I would say 50-50. I mean, there were guys that I knew, and there were also guys that we'd feature them coming up, and then once they started headlining,
You still have the
they'd still
relationship.
work with us because they knew me or I'm their friend. I mean, so there was even guys that like had agents. Like they're like, okay, we need to. I'm like, I'll just text Jake Johansson and tell him what time I'm picking him up at the airport. Like I don't need to know what hotel it is and what the license plate number of the car is. Because man, like this problem with agents is that everyone wants to justify their job.
Yep.
So like it was funny story. Like when we had Rogan that time, and again, Rogan called me up his agent called me out of the blue, like, hey, he's doing UFC in Indy. He wants to do a show. Can he do just a Friday night, just 2 shows? We're like, yes, of course. He's like, all right, it's X percentage of the door and whatever. Like, okay, cool. And so, but in his rider of his contract, he wanted a bottle of Grey Goose and 6 sugar-free Red Bulls and 6 regular Red Bulls and 8 Dasani waters and this and that, blah, 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 and all the deli tray of turkey. It was all this crazy stuff. And so, like, we set it all up, and he gets there, and he's like, what is all this? And I'm like, I don't know. It's in your contract. And he's like, show me that. And I showed him. He's like, I've literally never asked for any of these things. Like, I don't need any of this. But everybody's trying to justify their job. Everybody's trying to make sure they're important. So, like, there's some assistant to an assistant calling me every day for ticket counts, right? Like, yeah, I'm so-and-so's assistant. I need to know the ticket counts for Gary Goldman in January. That's 7 months away. We haven't sold any. No, none. It's not even on the website yet. Stop it.
You can buy them all if you'd like to.
Yeah, I mean, like, stop. But then every Monday, every Friday, but they have to justify their job, and that person has to justify their job, and they're like, oh, what are the ticket? Like, so there's all this pressure on them, and I get it. I mean, they got to earn their percentage or whatever. But like, that's where, yeah, there's a time where I don't want to work with your agent. I just want to talk to you.
Usually, it's the agents or whoever that is calling the comedy club to try to get booked.
Well, actually, that's not. What's funny is it just depends. Like there's comics that are emailing me individually and just trying to get booked, right? Then there are people who I know. I mean, that's what's crazy about comedy. It's just a numbers game. By the time I was 6 years into Morty, 4 years into Morty's, I had 85 headliners I wanted to work every year. I had 110.
You had your rotation.
Yeah, I mean, I got to fire someone who I'm friends with, who I think is great, to add anybody, right? So then you better sell a whole bunch of tickets. I mean, our rule is sell tickets, be funny, and be a good guy. You got to be 2, right? So if you sold a bunch of tickets and you were funny and you were a jerk, well, okay, I can put up with that, right? If you are a super nice guy and you sell a bunch of tickets but you're not that funny, I can put up with that too, right?
Yeah, but you don't want the other one.
But if
you're a good guy, but nobody sits there and watches it.
Well, but if you're super funny and you're a good guy and you don't sell tickets, that's still okay too, because there aren't 52 dudes that'll come to 52 comics that'll come to Morty's that'll sell tickets. There's just not possible. You know what I mean? Because like Morty's is a small enough market that like I don't think there's, even if I had, one time we did like 4 huge Bob and Tom names in a row, and 2 of the 4 didn't sell because you're not going to come to 4 shows, no matter who it is. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It's a huge bottom, so you have to spread them out. So I need some funny, on their way up, really good people, and they're not going to sell anything. I know that. It's July. I know they're not going to sell any tickets, but as long as they're a good person and super funny, then I'm going to bring them back, hoping that someday they make it, and then they'll come back and give me kind of the hometown discount or whatever.
So November, December, January, February is the big time for comedy in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Different locations. Check your local listings.
Yeah, for sure. Like comedy in the Midwest in the summer is terrible. My theory is because nobody's sad.
It's because we can go to the pool.
So, like, in February, you need comedy, right? You're like, I got to laugh, man, before I murder somebody, right?
Yeah.
Where, like, so it's, but in part, but again, you're at the pool, you're at the lake. It doesn't get dark till, 10:30? So you're mowing your yard at 9:45 when the show starts. I mean, it's like, it's a tough road to hoe it. And so there's going to be spots where I'm like, yeah, this guy's I just need a cheap guy who's super funny and a good guy. I mean, I'm not going to, what you can't be is not sell tickets and be a jerk, or sell tickets and not be funny. You got to be able, I'll put up with you, if you're super funny and you sell tickets, or if you're a super nice guy and
So pivoting.
Just don't be a jerk and don't sell tickets. Is what
yeah,
you're saying.
you can't, well, and that's pretty much life. You can't produce and be a jerk. You can't not produce. You can't not produce and not be a jerk. If you produce, you can be a jerk, And that's changing, and actually for the good. I mean, I think it's one of the things our society is in a kind of a weird spot, but I actually do like the fact that you can't be a monster anymore, no matter how good you are at something. Right? Like, no, you're not allowed to rape everybody. I don't care how good movies you make. It's like that's probably a good way to go, right? That's probably a bad thing to have happen for.
Some of these guys have to take
years.
6 or 7 months off. I guess Louis C.K.'s back in some way, and Aziz Ansari's is back, and the Me Too thing was right around Christmas time. I guess when we were bored and inside and had to tweet a lot.
But the difference between Louis C.K. and a lot of those guys is whenever Louis got ousted, he was like, "Yeah, I did it," and it was probably pretty inappropriate.
Yeah, and the thing I don't want to get too much into this just because whatever, but I think that, like, here's what I hope that comes out of this is the idea of growth, right? Like, when you point out something to somebody, here's my test for racism, right? Here's how you know if you're a racist or not. If someone tells you said something racist and you apologize, you're not a racist. If someone tells you said something racist and you argue with them, you're a racist. Stop it. It's that simple, right? Like, you can't be like, I've been saying Orient. I don't care what you've been saying. Because I don't want to be racist because I'm not. So if somebody's like, hey, that thing you said, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Which is what Derek Daly did.
Which is exactly what Derek Daly did. And that's my point. So that's what's about context. What I'm saying is, like, that's all it comes down to is, are you trying to be better, right? Like, if a woman said to me, hey, you made me feel this way when you said that, I would not be like, well, you shouldn't have. I've been like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'll never do that again. Like, and that's how we learn and grow. And the one thing I think we need to concentrate on is that what happened. I mean, Louis did this 10 years ago. He realized he was a dirtbag. Whatever. And then he came clean and said, hey, I messed up.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how long you stay in the penalty box. I mean, I'm not saying 10 months is enough. I don't know. That wasn't me, right? And his victims and whatever, and he'll admit he has victims, which, again, what it comes down to is, do you care if you have victims?
Yep.
If you do, then let's work on this.
You say,
if you don't care if you have
apologize.
victims, and so that's what I'm saying is we need to. But what I'm saying is if you found out something like Charlie Rose when he got fired was still walking around naked in his office like the day he got fired, right? Like Matt Lauer didn't take the button out of his desk. He still had the shut the door and lock the door button when he got fired. That guy hasn't changed or evolved at all, right? So as this thing happens and you look at it and you go, oh, here are things I did that were inappropriate or bad or wrong. And not that because no one's been perfect. No one's pitched a perfect game their whole life. That's not happening, right? But
except for MJ.
Yeah, well, sure. But I mean, when it's just you and your wife in a van, what are you going to do? There's not many girls. But
that's a really big button.
But I'm saying is like, so that's what I'm looking for in this world is growth. I mean, did you? Because the world has evolved. In the '80s, we had different thoughts. I mean, I have a bit about '80s movies. Taught us terrible lessons. Well, if you Revenge of the Nerds, if you go to a costume party and pretend to be a girl's boyfriend, have sex with her, she'll fall in love with you and marry you and stay with you for 5 sequels. No, you can't do that. You're on the register. What are you talking about, right? But that didn't occur to us. We weren't like, whoa, that's really creepy. We were like, man, he got something, because we didn't know any better because we were dumb, right? And so as you learn and that's the thing with all. I just wish. the problem I have with our entire political climate right now is that no one will learn anything. We all are right where we started, and if anybody disagrees with us, I mean, that when people talk about what's the difference between talking to adults and talking to kids, is when I talk to kids, I can change their minds. When I talk to a group of adults, even as a motivational speaker, if I say things they already agree with, oh my God, you're a genius. You're the smartest guy I ever talked to. If I say anything they don't agree with, you are an idiot. I can't believe you. Like I saw an article on Facebook the other day about the way we should merge on the highway. Okay, so you know how like we get on the line, it's going down to one lane, and some people go to the left and just go all the way to the front of the line, right? And we're all trained, well, that's a jerk, and we hate that guy, and what a... No, that's what you're supposed to do.
The zipper merge is what's ideal.
Zipper merge, they've done all these studies, all these engineers, like traffic engineers, have spent years, and this article had all these cited studies and all this stuff, and said, you know, in states where they've made that, like they do TV commercials to show people about the zipper merge, right? And it cuts congestion down by 40%. Okay, that's what this article is about. So I'm reading the article. I'm like, oh, that's interesting to know. I kind of heard about that, but this scientifically backs up everything I'm talking about. Every single Facebook comment, this article's BS, man. You're an idiot. Oh my God, more wrecks are caused by... No, God, did you not read any of this? What is wrong with you? Why can no one learn anymore? I'm trying to learn. Like, I'm not the... I mean, I have...
The Facebook comment section and the YouTube comment section are both very, very toxic places to be.
Brutal.
But I think brutal. Honestly, I think it's everywhere. Like, so I worked at the Laugh Factory in Hollywood for 26 days. Okay, and the owner and I didn't get along, and he's just a micromanager guy, and he just his way or the highway, and whatever. Okay, so one day I'm walking home, and I don't know how many people you've met that are super successful that are like that, but most of the people I know that are like super billionaires are all like that. They're all like micromanagey, you know, my way. There's nobody's like, what do you guys think? That's not how they think, right? And I'm like, what is about that personality that makes you successful? And then as I was walking home one day, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm right all the time, and I've never been successful ever, right? If you put $1 million in my bank account, I would be a monster right now, like because we already think we're genius. Like the dumbest idiot on either side of the political spectrum, right? That has a poor idiot, nothing. He's never accomplished anything, and whether it's right or left, he still thinks he's right all the time.
Right.
With no sense of like, right? But imagine if you became rich, you'd think, oh, it's because I'm a genius. It's because God loved me more than anybody else. Because I made all the right choices. Because I'm a good decision
maker. It's up there on the pyramid.
Yeah.
Capitalism is God's way of choosing who is smart and who is poor.
Right. And you think that, right?
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily which came first, is what I'm saying. Did you happen to succeed, and then all of a sudden, you know, you think you're right about everything, or were you actually right about? I don't know. But that's what I try to think about. It's like I'm still learning stuff. Like I don't know everything. Like when someone points out something to me and they're like, actually, that was super this or that. I'm like, oh man, I hadn't thought about it that way. I don't go, what? No, I'm not like that.
Impossible.
Right?
Yeah.
So. We talked last week on the show, and you can go back and listen to the Steve Horwitz episode if you're listening. It's episode 74 in your feed. We talked about Andy Gross and him performing at Purdue last week, and we've got this. You talked about Twitter and Me Too and the instant feedback and revolt you have, and we've explored this a little bit. Where you've got a number of comics that just won't do college campuses.
First, I want to point out about the Andy Gross thing, and I put this on Facebook, but he was not a comedian.
He was
a magician.
Vaudevillian.
No, he was a magician. Everyone stop it.
You
know how you know
he never played Morty's?
Listen, you know how you know someone's not a comedian? They bring volunteers on stage, okay? Comedians we don't want you to participate at all, okay? Sit quietly and laugh. This is my time. I have things I've prepared. I don't need your help, okay? Right. Anyone who needs help from the audience is not a comedian. That's a magician.
You know,
okay?
Don't even laugh too hard even.
I'm saying that's so let's not first of all, this was not a comedian knows how to handle an audience and knows what's going on, right? He's a magician, okay? And here's the other problem with magicians. Magicians all use each other's acts. They when you buy a trick, because if you've ever been to a magician, and I'm anti. Anyway, but
you're gonna get thrown out of the guild,
right? Again, I've seen some amazing magicians. What I'm saying though is, when you are a magician, you buy tricks from other magicians. If you've ever been to a magician, they all have that same disappearing card trick out of the flipboard. They buy them from each other, and it comes with the jokes. Okay, so the trick he was doing was 75 years old.
Pete Lee
So-
said it was an old vaudeville act.
So, yeah,
It
so the
was-
jokes that came with it were 75 years old. So the fact that they didn't work in 2018 is not ridiculous, okay? Those women probably should have been offended. The fact that he went to a college camp and didn't realize that touching a woman on stage and joking about touching her on stage was going to not that a bunch of 19-year-old kids weren't going to flip
And
we're going to flip out is insane. Like, what is I would yeah, they are a little sensitive, okay, and they are, but I mean, I talk to high school kids every day. Like, and I know there's a feedback loop, and you get into a college campus and you get taught all these things, and you have the whatever. But I'm just saying, like, he was doing 75-year-old jokes in front of 18-year-old kids, and you just can't do that. You have to have something that's
the kicker of it we heard last week. Mason Rottinghouse called in. He was in the audience. He's a freshman.
Yep.
And he called in and he's like, "Yeah, they just put us through sexual harassment training right before that."
yeah,
And then he does that act.
yeah. I mean, so I'm saying, like,
Where
again,
you need to call an audible and be
Not-
like, "Oh, we're gonna
yeah.
just tell jokes."
I mean, and by the way, that's happened to me once. I mean, me and Todd did a show for the Kroger's managers once, and they were like, the last time we had a comedian, they just weren't funny. So I don't care what you say, just be funny, okay? Just don't be crass. Well, I don't know what crass means, but all right, fine, right? And then turns out they'd been through diversity training all day. And then Todd and I both made jokes that were a little on the line, and the lady in the back flipped out and cut my mic off, and that was right.
Oh,
But in the context, I mean, I get it, right? Like, they'd been through this whole thing, and now they can't. Like, they're like, is this a test? Wait, are they tricking us? Are
we allowed to
they tricking us?
laugh?
Are we being punked? They put us through 6 hours of sexual harassment treatment, and then we're gonna watch a girl get touched on stage by a creepy dude? Like, you can't. So I mean, again, are college kids sensitive? Sure, right? Are they into diversity? Yeah, but it's not a bad thing to teach. I mean, I'll say this: I love the fact that it breaks my heart that it took us 2,000 years to teach our children not to make fun of disabled people. Right? Like, I was doing a speech, I was doing a full school assembly in Clarksville, Tennessee, and it's a urban school, right? So half black, half white, you know. And I always pick a kid they do a cheer, they make up this cheer, and I pick a kid to count to 4 or whatever. And nobody really volunteers. This kid in the back raised his hand, so I picked him. And he comes up, and he's obviously developmentally delayed. Something's wrong. He cannot count to 4. Like, he can't get it done. He's not being a jerk. He's not messing around. He literally is like 1, 2, and he just can't do it. And when I was a kid, probably even when you were a kid, how long till somebody called that kid a name from the back of the room? 14 seconds?
yeah, it wouldn't have
11
taken,
seconds?
Wouldn't have taken real long.
Right? It's called, whatever, they'd call him, right? No, the whole group's like, you got this, Todd. Come on, buddy. And when he finally counted to 4, the whole place gave him a standing ovation. And it gave me goosebumps. But at the same time, I'm like, how did we just figure this out? How did, for 2,000 years, would we have made fun of that kid? Right? And we weren't awful people. This is how it came. So some of this is the growing pains of being better people. Like, I think we're in the best time to be ever alive in the history of the world. I don't think, both sides think this is the worst time to ever be alive. No, this is the best.
I'm full of optimism. We've got so much opportunity and things that are going to go right.
This is the least racist we've ever been. This is the least homophobic we've ever been. This is the least misogynistic we've ever been. Do we have places to go? Yes, we have to get better. Of course we have to get better. And that's what we're trying to do. And why not, when we're in college, totally self-correct the other direction and make people because if you came from a small town and you never heard that, you learn that day and you're like, oh, okay. And then by the time you're 25, you're like, okay, well, it wasn't completely. Let's go towards the middle some more. Let's not go completely out of control. But, like, it's good to kind of self-correct. I mean, that's what everything's about. Is you go far to the right. That's in my politics. If my comedy, if I've got a super right-wing group, I'll try to say left-wing stuff to get them in the middle, and vice versa. Right? If I'm talking to somebody, I mean. When I talk to libertarians, I made fun of libertarians.
Oh, we're easy to make fun of.
Right. But I remember my open joke. I said, for a group of people that's so into freedom, I can't believe all you guys are married, which got a good laugh. But I'm saying I like to poke fun and to make you think. My goal is to make you think and not change your mind, but maybe let's all go towards the middle a little more.
Yeah, and one thing about what I noticed between the 2 times I've seen you live is you're never overly doom and gloom or whatever. There's so many negative comedians.
I have an iPhone. Why would I be upset?
Because you're out of data.
Yeah, right, but I'm not. I'm grandfathered in the Sprint Unlimited. I have all the data I want. I mean, literally.
Does that work in Newcastle? Did you check? Were you okay?
Yeah, I did.
Do we have bars here?
It got me here. Yeah,
Right.
It shut off and said I had no service twice, and I had to reset my GPS. But yeah,
listen to Jeremiah talking to you about Sprint. He's got
I've
brisket
got brisket
wireless.
wireless. I got Cricket.
Brisket?
Yeah, we call it brisket. Oh, it's a long-running Boss Hog Liberty joke.
Gotcha.
We had a Tanner Purdue was on early episodes, and he was a rep down there, but he was afraid to say the name of the place, so he just called it Brisket Wireless.
That's funny.
It's the equate version of cricket.
Well, I've always said is on Sprint phone, your phone has airplane mode, but on Cricket it has bus mode.
It's actually decent. It's been fine. I was a Verizon snob for years.
Except
Snob.
every 2 weeks he can't send or receive messages for like a
it
day.
may be my cheap phone. Yeah, I'm much better on Messenger than I am on MMS. Sometimes the MMS doesn't work, but the internet works.
So anyways, yeah, I'm not doom and gloom, and I'm also not one side there. Like I tell people when I'm like, I'm gonna do political jokes, but look, if I make you mad on one side or the other, I'll be back for you because I make fun of the right and I make fun of the left. I make fun of the right because I'm in the middle. I don't think. I just don't. I'm just not. I don't think
It's a
that's
pretty
the
good
worst
place
thing
to be.
ever.
That's what we say we are as libertarians. We want to, we
I mean,
want economic freedom, but then we want to, we're okay with gay marriage stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I actually like libertarian. The only thing that scares me about libertarianism, I can't imagine putting people in charge of the government that don't believe in government. Right? I've always said that's like putting that'd be like putting a vegan in charge of the Outback Steakhouse. They're gonna mess up the steaks on purpose, right? Like that's the only I get.
We just need a couple libertarians on there to hold them honest. I don't think we want total control yet, right?
And by the way, and that's what I'm saying. Like I like the people that keep people honest. I mean, I like
next week's guest is Darren Jacobs. He's one of my best friends, and he's an absolute socialist.
Yeah.
But he's okay in government, in moderation.
Absolute social. We call him the Boss Hog of Liberty token socialist. It's another long running joke.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's the one. Owen Benjamin. I did turn Owen Benjamin around on one thing. We had a conversation. He's like, I never thought about it that way. And this is where I'm a big government guy because in my experience, the smaller the government, the stupider the rules. Right? Like if 15 people need to agree on something, you can hijack that and have. I mean, the biggest scourge to democracy in this country is the neighborhood association.
Oh yeah,
right. They tell you what color to paint your house. That's not democracy at all. But if we had to make 200 or 350 million people decide on what color to paint your house, we'd never figure it out. The one good thing about big government is you can't pass dumb rules. I mean, I lived in Willowbrook, Illinois, which is a little tiny suburb of Chicago, and there was a law that my cat had to be on a leash. It was a cat leash law. My cat was outside. They brought him home and said, if we catch him again, we're going to destroy him. Yeah, I had to keep him inside for 6 months. There was a cat law.
Oh, my God. Destroy him?
Yeah, they were going to kill it because he was outside.
Listen, we're progressive and all, but we'll kill your cat.
But I'm saying that's what happens when you have, a small group of people that get upset about something.
Well, that's why we don't have direct democracy, right? That's why we live in a republic.
Sure.
So that mob rule can't control your life because
but the
loudest people get angry.
The smaller the group. And by the way, part of the problem with Twitter being the rule of the land is a small group of people can really influence everything. They can get,
Yeah.
Just takes a few loud keyboard warriors.
Yeah.
MJ, you've traveled the world since we talked to you late last summer on the podcast.
A little bit.
You went to some places?
Yeah.
Did you discover some weird laws, things you weren't allowed to do, can't park here?
Nothing. Cities you can't park anywhere. That's for sure. I hate big cities now. Not a good place to travel. But no, honestly, thinking about people in the middle, you hear Iowa, Idaho, random, Nebraska, all these places in the middle of the country, everybody's super just hillbilly racist. And like, oh man, everybody's pretty much the same most places, in my experience, which is nice. Like, all right, everybody's pretty cool.
You didn't run into any of the David Dukes of the world while you're out there?
No. Just mostly a lot of really cool, nice people. Some weirdos, but nice, Definitely. I mean, that's coming from somebody.
Of the trip.
I was going to say, that's weirdos is.
So how many states did you actually go through?
30. All of them except for North Dakota and Minnesota west of here. And then
that's more than 30 something.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot, a ton. And some Canada too.
You guys went
some
to Canada,
yeah.
That's awesome.
It was on fire when we were there, unfortunately. But
I have a black and white.
Don't smoke and throw your stuff out the door. And that won't happen, Smokey.
What are you going to do with all the roaches? You think run out of room in the van? Just kidding.
I have a picture of Yellowstone National Park in the kitchen, you walked right up to it, and you were like, "Oh yeah, it's even more beautiful in person."
Yeah, it's crazy. Honestly, like when you're there, it just looks fake. And so my girlfriend, she'd been to most of these places, and I'd never left Indiana, basically, and so it's really cool, man. You see all these pictures and books growing up, and you then you see him in person, you're like, that doesn't even look real. You know, it's crazy. But yeah, that waterfall at Yellowstone was beautiful.
Yeah, so you were first on episode 15, like we said earlier, and you told us all that you were gonna move into your Chevy Astro with your girlfriend. You let us
Is she
see.
still the girlfriend? She's not the fiance. Not
Yeah,
the wife?
no, I mean, no, we're still together. Surprisingly, I think some of my friends had bets on this. This is not gonna.
How long did you travel?
6 months, like 3 months on, 3 months off, 3 months back on. We were able to get our jobs back, which is pretty nice of them. My girlfriend was working remotely, which was pretty cool for her. But yeah, no, not married, not broken up, just
we
back
saw
to the routine.
You showed us the inside of the van
Mhm.
and the sleeping arrangements
Yeah.
and everything. Did it get tiresome at times? Just like, why should we stay in this van and not just go find the nearest Motel 6?
It's a lot cheaper. So we in 6 months we paid for a place to sleep like 5 times, I think.
Okay.
Other than
So
that,
you
it
had
was-
5 showers over 6 months.
right. Well, yeah, 5 real showers. Yeah. Turn the old garden sprayer into a shower. That was.
Didn't
kinda
you guys
nice.
have a Planet Fitness membership?
The first 3 months we had no gym membership. Second 3
Ah.
months we did.
Okay.
Which was nice. We did YMCA because there's a lot more Ys than Planet Fitness.
Yeah, that makes sense.
A little more expensive, more accessible.
Plus the song. So.
Yeah,
What?
exactly.
There's no
Yeah.
Planet Fitness
Yeah.
song, so
You're going to the Planet Fitness.
You're
it's harder
you guys
to spell with your arms.
PLAN. Yeah, it's we have a plan. And you guys are roamtohome.com, so
Yep.
you've vlogged it and blogged it.
Yeah.
Millions of people following you over there.
Millions.
I'm
Millions.
sure you're able to.
So it
get
turns
some,
out
some sweet
it's
money
hard
out
to
of that.
believe we were the only people under the age of 30 who have recently decided to travel and live in a van. No one's ever tried it before, so it really blew people away. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
Practicing homelessness.
Yeah. It was nice. Yeah, it was really cool, man. I would do it again. It was way easier adjusting to being homeless and living in a van than it was to move back into a house and go to work every day.
I bet.
How did you just run over your meals, or did you eat at restaurants?
Well, you know what? Actually, in about 35 to 40,000 miles, we did not hit a single animal until the last 2 weeks. We were in Utah, going about 70 miles an hour, and we saw these mule deer coming down a hill, and we're like, shit, we're gonna hit one. You know, I swerved, missed one, and this other one, man, we just clipped it, and there was a DNR guy behind us, and we pulled over, and he just walked up, and he's like, "Oh dear," and we're like, "Yeah, man."
Been
He's
waiting
like,
all day to use that.
"Yeah,
joke.
no." Well, it's fun. He's probably uses a lot because he said there's this mile stretch where there's no fence, and they're working on getting the money to continue to build this fence to protect the wildlife and insurance, yada yada yada. And he said more deer get hit in this 1 mile stretch here in a year than anywhere else in the state. So part of the statistic now. But yeah, I asked him actually. I was like, "So what do you do with this? Do you donate it? Is there like a local food bank or something?" He's like, "No, because usually when you hit a deer going 70 miles an hour, the inside of it's pretty, you know,
outside.
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Turn
not
to
good."
soup.
Yeah. He's like, you don't want to mess with that.
Your van's name is Luna.
It is, yeah.
How's Luna doing?
She's good. Yeah, drove her here.
They put her back together.
Yeah, she's nice. Yeah, it was great. Actually, when we got back home, we just went to the pick and pull, grabbed some parts. White Astro vans, pretty common, luckily. So
Every
Went-
air conditioner repairman for 1,000
Yeah.
miles had one.
went to one junkyard, spent like a couple
You wouldn't use parts.
$150.
You wouldn't use parts from a red Astrovan.
Well, so
or
no,
burgundy
all right,
Astrovan?
I wanted to. Aaron,
Wide only, man.
Only-
Okay.
It's gotta be pure original design.
So I wanted to. Aaron said no. I was like, why don't we just make
As
it
the
make it
GM
red,
engineers
white, and blue,
intended it.
man? And I got one fender with a little
You
bit
meant
of
the
pinstripe
outside.
action.
You meant the outside.
Yeah,
Okay. All
yeah,
right,
yeah,
all
yeah.
right. I thought.
I would have went full mix and match, but she
I
wasn't
mean, if
having
you
it.
bolted on a blue door, it would have looked like you needed Kentucky plates
I
on
know,
it.
man, it would have been great.
So why did you guys decide to move home?
Well, it was always the very original plan was we were kind of we wanted to go drive around, travel, see some stuff, and maybe find a new place to live. And I would say halfway into it, we're like, man, there's
Man,
all these beautiful
This
places.
could turn into a speech for politics, and I just didn't find any place better than Indianapolis, Indiana.
Well, I mean, yeah, yes and no. But yeah, halfway into it, we were talking, and we're like, all right, where would you move so far? And we're like, well, this place is awesome. This place, I mean, all these really beautiful places are in the middle of nowhere. Like, you can't really go move to Yosemite National Park.
There's not
But-
a neighborhood chili water brewing company.
No,
over there.
there's not. There's a Starbucks there now, I think. So they've invaded Yosemite. But Yeah. So I don't know. We just came back. We had jobs here that we knew we could come back to. She knew. I had an idea that my boss would let me work again, but close to family. It's super cheap. It's affordable. Gonna hang out in Indy for a few more years.
How many T-shirts does a guy pack for a trip like that? 'Cause you're a T-shirt guy. That's what you wear. That's
I pretty much. I think I brought about a plastic tote about that big had all of my clothes in it.
We're a podcast. That was about
30
inches by 22
yeah,
inches.
one of those plastic totes.
A
You keep under your
22-foot
bed.
U-Haul.
Yeah.
Got
a huge trailer.
A 22-foot U-Haul.
Just,
Further than
yeah.
good to see.
6 T-shirts maybe.
6 T-shirts.
Yeah, 6 T-shirts.
I don't know.
6, 7 pairs of underwear.
I don't know if
some
Bowers could do
socks.
it with the dry cleaning.
Well, no, here's the thing, man. I'm a minimalist, too. I honestly own 3 dress shirts. I have probably 15 jackets, but I've got 2 pairs of tux pants and then 10 pairs of boxers, and I have one pair of shorts. I have 6 black T-shirts. Like I like because I do, and I don't even dry clean much. Because the jackets, I mean, I wash the shirts, the pants. If they get something on them, I'll dry clean them. But I mean,
Right.
I don't, because I can do one load of laundry and all my stuff's clean again. So like I never have a pile of laundry. Like I own 3 plates. I have 4 forks.
Like how many plates do you need?
I mean, and then it makes you do dishes. I mean, you can't have a sink full of dishes when you don't have enough dishes to
Right.
fill up the sink. So
Yeah.
like you don't just I like that a lot better. I like not having a lot of
Yeah.
stuff because I used to have a bunch of stuff when I was married. The second we had a mansion in Carmel and blah blah. And I live in I don't need that much stuff.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, we've noticed accumulating. I don't want to say junk, but just like I bought a bike since I've been home. I already had a bike. Why did I buy? You know what I mean? Like, I would not have bought another bike had we been traveling. I'm like, oh yeah, I need this sweet new bike. But same thing with the plates. I haven't bought any new plates. I bought a new bike though since we've been back.
We've in the last month, I've accumulated 12 sets of new plates.
Right. Yeah.
Smaller plates, bowls, cups. Yeah.
No one ever uses the little 4-inch plate for anything. I don't think.
I
Man,
use
well,
those all the time.
do you
I
really?
use those
Yeah.
more often than
The other
big- for
plate
what?
we got are ginormous, so it's
I try.
we're
I
on
don't
a
know.
diet. We use a smaller plate,
Yeah.
solid
fair enough.
When I got married the first time, my buddy worked at Steak and Shake corporate, and he got me a full China set of Steak and Shake plates with the
Ooh.
logo. So those
That would have been
those are
sweet.
still-
Are those still what you're on?
they're still in my
Nice.
possession. Yeah, I
Nice.
still have those. So I like those plates a lot. But
Heck yeah.
Restaurant grade.
Those are like the commercial, the ones that you use in the commercial.
Yep,
You know,
yep.
bean crock. Did
Like-
they come with a bean crock? Bean pot? What
I
do they
d-
call it? There used to be a commercial about
yeah,
it.
bean crock.
Oh,
crock.
the crock. Yeah.
Yeah, bean crock.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I got bean crocks, but I had the saucers and coffee mugs, which I don't have anymore. But I still have the 3 dinner plates, 4 dinner plates. I think I broke one.
That's
but
awesome.
I have 3.
Now I want one of those bean crocks.
We've got a few. We have. I had a set of. I thought I had 4, and we're going newlywed stuff. We're going through
Sure, yeah.
building the house, setting everything up, and every room. You're just finally. She moves in, and all of her stuff comes, and then all of the wedding gifts come in. And do we want to keep this? And do we not like that? And you're just constantly moving. And we,
Lots of salt and pepper
Oh
shakers.
my gosh! She came with a dowry of salt and pepper shakers, Bowers. I have a cabinet that's 6 feet tall that is full of salt and pepper shakers that were passed down from her great grandparents.
Wow.
Unbelievable. They're just.
Are they loaded?
Well, some are. There was salt that spilled out from
are
1977.
are
I
they
think.
antiques?
Some of
Yeah,
them would
they're
get
old.
you.
I mean, I'm saying, are they worth money antiques? Like someone would want these things?
You can come by and try to steal some.
I don't want. I'm just saying. Like my whole thing is, and I learned this at 42. When we moved from so we had a big house. I moved to a rental house, and then we moved to an apartment. And when we moved to the apartment, I just literally threw everything I owned away, other than a few pieces of clothing, and like. We have a couple shadow boxes full of tickets to a concert we went to or whatever. They're on the wall as art. But I'm not gonna have kids, so like there's no reason to save all this crap that I'm gonna give. Because even if I had kids, they're not gonna care about it. People just save all this stuff, thinking, oh well, someday.
I'm ridiculously emotional about stuff or sentimental.
Oh, I was for a long time,
Yeah.
and then when I was a collector, I had all these Star Wars guys and Simpsons guys. I have one drawer of Halloween stuff in case I need to make it into a Halloween costume of dumb pants and shirts I've owned that are funny, and then that's it, man. It was so liberating to throw everything away and not hold on to any of that crap. Oh, it was so
I was at the Moral Residence this past weekend, and some of those salt and pepper shakers would get you kicked off of Purdue campus.
It was a different era, but they're yeah. I unpacked.
Well,
some
back
of
in
them
the
and
day, you
went,
could get your
Wow.
magic tricks and salt and pepper shakers. From
Yeah,
the same
yeah.
guy, so it's
Exactly right.
right down there off 3rd Avenue.
Well, I
Wow.
think we are at
Yeah,
that
I can't
point in the
imagine
show.
what vintage Newcastle salt shakers look like.
I love
I saw
that.
some of the
Yes,
flags. I saw some of the flags on this street, and now I'm imagining.
Well, Dakota lives in inner city Newcastle. I live 5 doors from city limits, so it's a little different
Gotcha,
culture down there in the
Gotcha.
in White Estates.
That's not really what it's.
That's really the name of my neighborhood.
That's the name of the subdivision
And you're
he lives
building
in.
a house, so it's newly named White Estates.
No.
Oh, that's how you're building the
No,
house.
they built the houses in that neighborhood in 1968.
Oh, okay, so you're
Yeah.
but you're building a house somewhere else now.
No. We're here. We're not
I
moving.
thought you said you were building a house.
No,
Eh.
we're
You're building a
we're-
house in the sense
it
that
was
you're putting your house
hyperbole,
together.
yes.
Ah,
We're not
I thought
turning
you were-
dirt. We are deciding what
Gotcha,
stuff
gotcha.
goes where. We're building our home inside of a house.
I think your campaign slogan should be renaming your neighborhood to
Progressive Parkway.
yeah, Progressive Parkway,
Rainbow
or,
Estates. I like
nah,
that.
exactly. He'll lose with Rainbow Estates, but if we did, I'm trying to think of the best name. Oh my God, I'm blanking right now. But just the name of can we all get along kind of a name? Like the progressive. Yeah, I like Progressive Estates.
Union
Let's do it.
Estates, maybe? I don't
Maybe,
know.
maybe.
Oh, my mother-in-law's in here telling me to be nice. I've got to. Oh, it's a high wire act. Libby, I've got to choose between comedy and your love, and I don't know. You're stuck with me.
Oh,
we
God, that's
we've
good.
only
How
got
about
6 hours in the car Friday.
Diversity Estates. That'll win you the election.
Yeah,
Diversity
nice.
Estates. It's
Oh.
for everyone.
So White Estates is named after the White family, the farmer that
Sure.
owned the ground before.
Sure.
Lovely
sure.
people.
Yeah,
I'm
but-
still friends
yeah,
with
but
Rachel
what,
White Connor.
What color was the White family?
Well, look.
Brad and Dina White were at our wedding. It's a long time family thing. But yes, it's very built in the late '60s, man. We are everything I'm involved in, everywhere I live, ends up in the center of the news. The White Estates sewer controversy has been one of the biggest political footballs, other than the wind thing. It's been one of the biggest political footballs in the county's deal. IDEM's been in. We got to have new sewers installed, and we're all going to have grinder pumps in our front yards. It's White Estates comes with its headaches. I don't want it to make it sound like it's all
It's not
lollipops.
It's not all white picket fences and white people. There's other problems.
We've got our issues.
Oh, God.
Sometimes I just wish I could get in the Chevy Tahoe and drive away from it all and live in a van down by the river.
You only need 8 T-shirts, man.
8 T-shirts.
8 T-shirts,
get you
3
going.
plates, a couple forks. What else you need?
Sarah saw my closet and went, "Oh my, what? Who does this belong to?" I have an entire chest of drawers full of there's an underwear drawer and then a short white sock drawer and a long white sock drawer and then a black sock drawer.
Yeah, just do more laundry. You don't need all
Yeah.
that crap.
Well, I've got a laundry person now. I'm well taken care of.
Wow. Okay, that'll get you thrown off produce campus for sure. So I have a laundry person.
Oh, God. Coming from the man that lives in White Estates, yeah.
Sarah does a lovely job with the laundry. My life changed when I used to sort by.
Yeah, but for her, have less laundry.
Well,
I get that you don't need to do it anymore, but I mean that's literally like honestly,
It's a favor to your wife.
if you love your wife, get rid of almost all of your socks, so she has to.
In one drawer of my dresser, Jeremiah,
It's not like I
have
go
my
through-
socks, my underwear, and my white undershirts all in one drawer.
It's not like I go through less. It's just that I don't have to do laundry as often. It's not like you're wearing less underwear because you don't wash your underwear.
That's a solid point. That's a solid point. But
It's just you have
That's
backup
debatable.
inventory, so you can go do something for 2 or 3 weeks, then you just have to take a day and knock it all
He's gonna
out.
have a pretty high water bill after all this sewer situation's done, so we don't need him doing more laundry.
that's true. That's true. I don't even know what a grinder is. But
A grinder pump.
I know what grinder is, but I don't know what a grinder
well,
pump.
we don't have grinder out here in Henry County yet.
Pumps the new version.
Somehow that's blocked on an iPhone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not. Yeah, it's not.
Old
the county
Brisket
commissioners haven't
Wireless
allowed
took
it yet.
that down.
We just got Farmers Only a couple weeks ago, and the guys are very excited about it.
Oh my God!
I actually doing a reality show because I've said I tell women all the time, if you're a single woman and you don't want to be single anymore, move to a small town. You'll be married in 3.5 months. Like there are no single women in small town America. Like I travel, that's what I do.
I had to go all the way to
Right.
Morgan County to find one.
I'm saying there's just there are
Met her
no
at Morty's.
there are no single women. Like you go to, and I'm not talking Newcastle's a big town. I'm talking like we know.
You moved to O'Neill, Nebraska. Yeah.
Or even Spiceland or what's the one north of Richmond? Like there's that Unionville or Uniontown or whatever it's called.
Oh yeah.
Whatever, right?
You're almost down.
Yorktown, maybe.
Well, Yorktown's in Muncie,
Oh,
but
yeah,
anyway,
that's in
but you
Muncie.
move to a small town. Like I do comedy shows in these little towns, and
Lynn.
there are no single women, right? I actually I want to do a reality show where we go to Lynn, Indiana, right? And there's always 10 or 12 single dudes, right? And we bring a woman.
They're
from
all working at the casket factory.
or wherever. They all have different backgrounds, but we would bring in a woman from the outside to Lynn, Indiana, and we do a bachelor, but it's just for dudes that live in Lynn. Like Dating Lynn would be the name of the show, maybe. I don't know. And then she has to pick a guy out of all these 9 dudes that live in Lynn,
Now,
Indiana.
when we sat down here, you said,
would
I don't
be
want to be
brilliant.
famous. You're moving to Los Angeles, and you're gonna have a pitch for this by Christmas.
Yeah, I'll be a
And,
writer.
and you're gonna be back.
Yeah, I'll be a writer.
and
but
you're
I'm
gonna
not
be in
gonna- I'm
Lynn
not gonna
writing
host.
and
I'm not gonna
producing this
host the
show.
show. I'm not gonna host the
He'll
show.
be backhand famous.
Dakota and I can host it.
There you go.
We'll
You
be the
guys are
face of your
you
show.
guys are what do you give? We
right.
give out a corn stalk. What do you give?
Yes.
Union City. My father says Union City.
Union City. That's what it's called. Yeah. So the dating Union City, or
A corn stalk.
dating Wabash. We just find a little tiny town. We move a girl there, and then the 9 dudes that are single have to try to date her.
The backdrop is a John Deere
The
tractor in an
Knightstown
old
9.
barn.
Nice
Yes.
town. That had a different connotation back in the day.
It'll be on I don't know on AMC.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
It's good
I'm
time.
thinking. I think we'll make it happen.
Boy, we have so many opportunities. Well, man, this has been fun. I've enjoyed it.
I have a good time.
Thanks for slumming out with us
This
in
is the- this is
Henry
the
County.
This is the most fun I've ever had in a bedroom in Newcastle.
And you grew up out here. I didn't realize that you went to Chirp Chirp U, and you're from Richmond.
From
so this is
Richmond,
you
yeah.
had to drive through here.
Oh, I've been to Newcastle many times.
Yeah.
I've just never been in a bedroom. I wasn't.
Never invited.
I've been to a Burger King. I've been to the Steak and Shake a few times. I stop at the truck stop over here actually every time I drive through.
You do the
this
Indian food?
stuff.
That truck stop, or you do one of the others?
the big what's the big one? The
We got a Flying J and a Mr. Fuel.
The Flying J's.
Come on,
Yeah.
man. You gotta go to Taste of India.
They got good They have good chicken fingers there at that one.
There you go.
Man, they do have good chicken fingers.
So you got stuff to plug. You got more shows coming up before you jet off to be the Californian.
Well, I'm doing the Corner Wine Bar tomorrow night in Broad Ripple, and then I don't know what else I've got. I got a brewery show in September, I think. I don't have a lot scheduled, but Morty's Comedy.com or no, not Morty. At Bowers Comedy on Snapchat. I'm very funny on Snapchat.
We'll be the judge of that.
No, I'm very funny on Snapchat. I just get progressively drunk and hilarious. Yeah, at Bowers Comedy on Twitter and Chris Bowers on Facebook. So follow me around.
And if we have somebody listening that say programs for 4-H and needs a speaker, big crowd, motivational speaker.
Yeah, Bowers Success, 1 S in between BowersandSuccess.com. Bowers, BOWERSUCCESS.com.
There we go. Van down by the river.
Yeah, someday.
So, yeah.
That's how I got to where I am.
Yeah.
This guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I know.
MJ.
Yeah.
You bartended my wedding, man.
I did.
Were my guests okay?
It was awesome. I mean, it was the best wedding I've ever bartended.
Or is it the only one?
It was the only one. But no, seriously, I mean, that's the bar has been set high. Everybody had fun. You know, we've all been to boring weddings, right?
Yeah, I went to like 6 of them before my own
Yeah.
this year.
Then you're just.
I
"God, this
definitely
is
threw the best party."
terrible." You know, oh, it was great. It was phenomenal. Everybody got hammed, which was awesome. Didn't have to kick anybody out. That's always a plus because that's kind of awkward at a wedding. Everybody knows you. But yeah.
Brought the groom. That's always a bad sign.
Oh no, I've been kicked out of places by my family before. Jared, you're done. It's over. Go home now.
Yep.
You guys drank like 3 kegs,
Yeah.
15 gallons of booze.
I drank
maybe?
a lot of this.
Yeah, that was
We're-
the first one gone.
Your day job, you're at the Chili Water Brewing Company down in Fountain Square.
Yeah.
And you brought with you some of the Blood Orange IPA.
It's our number 1 selling beer by far. It's not even close.
We
It's
had-
unbelievable.
We had a keg of that. We had a keg of Pilsner, I believe.
Pilsner, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
That
the
was good
blood
times.
orange and Pilsner I think kicked before the Miller Lite did. Which is, I mean, not a lot of people their first choice isn't going to be a blood orange IPA, so that was awesome.
Well, we know a good thing out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it was good.
And plus,
Good
Dakota was on it early, so that did it.
That's true. Yeah, it was awesome. I showed up a little early, and a few of the guys were like, "Hey, if you don't mind, I know how this thing works. I'll just sneak back here." I'm like, "Knock yourself out, man. Go
Yeah.
for it."
About 20 minutes before the wedding, I think Danny or Dakota came up and was like, yeah, they're serving drinks. and everybody has a drink. And I said, that's fine. I don't care. Whatever.
Wasn't me.
I'm not
I
worried about
didn't
it.
start drinking until.
No, it wasn't you. It was all of the guests were out in
right,
the audience
yeah.
drinking.
Yeah, Josie came up and she brought me a blood orange though, and I appreciate that, Josie.
Well, yeah,
very much.
I was getting worried. I'm like, Danny told me to be here at this time, and everybody's already like 3 drinks in. The wedding hasn't even started. Was I late? I don't know. Then that was fine though.
No, it was all good. Awesome. So, you guys have the roamtohome.com. Anything else to promote?
Yeah, no, man. We're just occasionally taking some trips here and there. You know, I'm getting ready to head out, do some international traveling this week up to Canada. So catch some fish. Nothing too exciting.
What are we
but,
catching? We catching pike? We catching
walleye, pike. Hope to catch more walleye in a week than I've ever caught in my life. So we'll see.
The cheeks. You got to eat the cheeks.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
The oysters, the scallops of freshwater.
The
for
freshwater
sure. Yeah.
scallop. You know about this?
What's that?
You eat the cheek of a walleye.
Did not know that.
It's it's a little. If you get a 18, 19-inch walleye, you've got the cheeks got real good meat, easy to eat, and then you got the side fillets as well.
I'm not a fish guy.
Yeah.
Only fish I eat is Long John Silver's, and I'm not sure that's fish.
High grade.
You have a weird diet.
I do have a very
Right?
weird diet. Yeah, I'm a meatitarian. I don't eat fruits. I haven't had a fruit or vegetable since 1996. So.
Yep. Do you still eat like bread and carbohydrates?
Well,
and
right
things?
now I'm on my crazy diet phase, so I eat once a day, keto, no carbs, 600 less calories.
So since you're not eating vegetables and things, you're basically carnivore.
It's just hot dogs and pepperoni, essentially.
Yeah.
Occasionally I'll go to Fogo de Chao and eat a bunch of steak.
How's the
or-
indigestion?
No any problems at all.
Nothing. You're
No.
built for it. You've done this for 20
Well,
years.
again,
so-
that's one of my stand-up jokes, but it's, it's the idea that, like, when I say I don't have any fruit or vegetable in 20 years, people are like, you're going to die before me. I'm like, unless there's an apocalypse. You whole food gluten-free chumps but died diarrhea in the first 3 weeks of the apocalypse. I've been eating SpaghettiOs at room temperature my whole life. I'm ready for this. Let's do it.
There's
so,
Jordan Peterson. He was we went and saw him speak, and he's doing a carnivore diet, so it's nothing except for red meat essentially.
Yep.
And he was someone submitted a question at the end, and they said, do you think that the carnivore diet is sustainable? And being a 55-year-old man or whatever, he goes, no, I suspect that sometime in the next 40 to 50 years I will be dead.
yeah, no, that's my. But I also don't want to be 80. I mean, like, literally, I don't do anything for health reasons. I'm trying to get skinny before I move to LA just to be skinny. But I don't care.
You
about
don't want to be
health.
the fattest guy in Los Angeles.
Yeah, right. Like I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, and just whatever. I mean, also too because it's hot out there all the time. So like here I can half the year I'm in the coat and it doesn't matter that I'm fat. But there I'll be.
Yeah.
but-
Topping it up.
Yeah. So but anyway, I don't want to be 80. I mean, what do you? I'm like, go to a Golden Corral for 2 hours and tell me you want to be 80, dude. It's dumb. 65 tops. That's what I'm going out.
You don't want any of that Social Security. Screw that.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, I don't need any of that.
Don't need that.
My entire retirement plan is apocalypse based. If there's still banks when I'm 65, I'm in big trouble. So I'm not
Well.
planning. But imagine this. Imagine how much different you would live your life if you knew you weren't going to live past 70. If 70 was the cap, you could retire at 55. You wouldn't be worried about being 90. You could plan your money better.
We'll take good care of you, man.
No, I'm not.
Yeah,
out.
we'll be all right.
65. I'm out.
Well, I mean,
August 2nd, 2038.
I'm just banking
done.
on
You're
all
not
of our,
65 in 2038.
Yeah, I am.
Really?
I turned 45 this year.
God.
Yeah.
Right? Look,
You're
at
holding
he,
up
he
okay.
said he was a senior in high school in 1992. My dad
91,
graduated
yeah.
in 1992, so
yeah, 91. I graduated 91. So yeah,
You had a kid, it could have been this guy.
I'm 45. Yeah, that'd been sad. But I'm kidding. I'd take it. You'd be sad for you because you'd be bigger and not good at sports.
I'm still not good at sports. Yeah.
Oh, well, there you
Yeah,
go.
there's a reason we're podcasters.
Yeah.
So you have been in a bedroom in Newcastle.
Boom. My dad
Yeah.
actually had a really great burn at the track this year at Carb Day. My friend Kathleen always thinks that I look like her brother. And so she's like, I said to my dad was there, and I go, Dad, look, this girl thinks that I look like her brother. And she pulls out a picture of him, and she goes, look, and he goes, yeah. What's your mom's name? It's like, man, that's a sweet dad burn. I can't believe you just crushed her like that. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Bowers met Dawn in about 1995.
Yeah,
March,
right.
April, somewhere in
There
there.
you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Dakota, what do you got, man? Final thoughts. You're ready to jet off here before too long.
Jet off. Oh yeah. Well, we're not gonna say anything about that. Next week we have coming on the show is the token socialist Darren Jacobs. He's making his triumphant return. you came on new again this episode, and you were
Yep.
first on episode 15. Darren was first on episode 14. So we kind of swamped you guys.
It's like Freebird month here. We're just playing the hits, spinning the hits on the Boss Hog.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm excited for Darren to come on. He's bringing ghost peppers. We're gonna try to eat those.
Yeah, I was a little bummed about that. I thought I was gonna just get scorched here.
A million Scoville heat units.
Dakota has designed the show notes for us where we're eating ghost peppers mid-show. We're not even doing it at the end of the show next week.
Yeah.
We're going to do it in the middle, and then we're supposed to do
That's my whole
something
plan.
about Senate. We're going to talk about the U.S. Senate race.
The most that like a really, really important topic that we're talking about is the United States Senate race and
pure
the
comedy.
Indiana Chamber of Commerce. And I have it set up to where we eat the ghost peppers right beforehand. Yeah, it's going to be fantastic.
That's kind of how our whole political thing is right now. Is we're all eating ghost peppers the whole time we're talking about
Yeah,
it.
we're just choking and suffocating.
Take
while
your medicine.
Barely
You'll vote
talking.
one of these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
going
hope
to
you're
be
gonna have some milk
hilarious.
in the house, man. It's going to be brutal.
Well, see, I hate milk, so I don't know. I have some almond
and it
milk.
will be what we are milk. You have almond milk.
Yeah, I just cannot stand the taste
I've
of
got to
dairy
bring
milk.
some milk. That's going to be rough. All right. Well, then that'll be the final episode in the studio.
That's right.
After the ghost peppers, we're going to burn the place to the ground.
Or ever.
Ever. Yeah. It may end us. It
Might be
may.
your swan song.
It may be the end. What we won't send the Patreon money back. We're just going to see how long y'all keep sending it in before you're like, I haven't heard a new episode in a long time. A couple announcements for us. Juice in the Morning. We started a feud with Juice in the Morning last week. They are a Indianapolis-based podcast, and it turned into an invitation. Apparently, instead of picking fights, I just make friends because that's me. So we're going to be on with Justin Kelly September the 9th, opening day of NFL football. Dakota and I are going to drive to Indianapolis and do Juice in the Morning and see what happens. Justin's been a good dude to us. We noticed that we were beating them in the Facebook like contest and the interaction with the fans. Thank you very much. Called it out publicly that we were kicking their ass by a few hundred people. We are still losing to the Newcastle turkey that we created, but whatever. It's okay. A dead chicken or turkey can dominate us on Facebook for a little while. We're coming for the corpse of Eric. We'll take you out. Final thing for me, I am on the ballot here in a couple months, so you can find my political page, Jeremiah Moral Candidate, on Facebook. Doing a little fundraising, getting ready to order some T-shirts for people working the polls the last 2 weeks of September and in October and the first weekend in November. Those weekends we're going to be going door to door, chasing votes, trying to win a race for county council in Henry County. That takes money, so this is my unapologetic plea to say, hey. Jump on there and do a little donation, 10, 20, 30 bucks. If I can get another $300-$400 this week, we're done fundraising. We're going to have enough for the billboards, T-shirts, yard signs, and handouts, and then we just get to run our plan. So need a little bit of help on that, and I'm good to go. Anything else, Dakota? Are you good?
I'm good, man. Yeah, totally vote for you. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah.
I was going to say more, but I'll keep it there.
It sounds like black sheep, man. Vote Donnelly.
Yeah.
Vote for Donnelly. All right. We see y'all next week. Bowers, thank you very much.
Thanks, man. Had a
We
good time.
enjoyed it.
Appreciate it.
MJ,
Thanks for having me back.
stay safe.
Yeah,
Hope the
always.
Canadians let you back in the
Yeah, I
country.
hope so. We'll see.
All right. That's that. Copy this. We'll do a picture real quick.
Cool.
Dakota,